What is happening inside Gaza and Israel resonates throughout the entire Middle East. I'm Yair Pinto, and I ask you to join me as we hear from our TBN expert, Mati Shoshani, who will help us better understand how God is moving in Gaza and the wider Middle East.
Poseidon's Ark is the name of the secret operation against the Houthis. Iran takes off its gloves and attacks in Pakistan. Jordan joins Israel, and the Houthis, well, they remain Houthis. Here's everything that happened this week in our neighborhood. This week, military forces of the US and Britain launched a joint operation dubbed Poseidon's Bow to strike the missile launchers, radar installations, and other infrastructure operated by the Houthis in Yemen. The operation included strikes by Tomahawk cruise missiles and other precision-guided munitions launched from tactical aircraft, surface ships, and submarines. The armed forces and intelligence agencies of several other countries participated in this operation. The Hezbollah-affiliated El Mayadeen news portal in Lebanon reported that Houthi infrastructure was struck in the capital of Sana'a, the province of Tez, Al-Bida, and Hajjah. These names will no doubt be unfamiliar to you, as they were to me when I first heard of them. But they are cities in Yemen where large numbers of people live and which the Houthis rule over and ruthlessly exploit for their own benefit and to the benefit of Iran. A military source in the Houthi militia told the Qatari network Al Jazeera that the recent US-led attacks are the most violent in Sana'a since the beginning of the attack in Yemen. From this, an educated guess can be made that the attacks took out some hardware that was of great value to the Houthis and their Iranian sponsors, as it has also been reliably reported that specialists from the Lebanese terrorist organization Hezbollah have been deployed to Yemen to assist in the targeting of international shipping. It would probably also be safe to guess that some of these specialists were also hit in these recent strikes. British Defense Minister Grant Shapps said in a statement regarding the strikes that they will deal another blow to the Houthis' limited inventory and their ability to threaten global trade. We will continue to support regional stability throughout the Middle East. End quote. However, while Western leaders like Shapps speak about promoting stability, this goal is not to everyone's agenda. A member of the Supreme Political Council of the Houthis, Muhammad Ali al-Huthi, referred to the recent US and British strikes against militia targets in Yemen, saying that they will only strengthen the Yemeni people. In a statement he published on this account on the X network, he wrote that the Americans and the British must understand that we are in the period of reaction and our people do not know a way of surrendering. He turned to the US and Britain and emphasized, your attacks will only make the Yemenite people stronger and more determined to confront you. According to him, the Yemenis are fighting to prevent the genocide and the siege of the residents of Gaza. It's notable that historically, it's been a favorite tactic of authoritarian regimes, tyrants and dictators of all political, religious, and ideological varieties to claim to be speaking and acting in the name of the people in the areas they control. However, we seldom hear directly from the people of Yemen, North Korea, or many other places that have had such tyrannical regimes ruling over and exploiting them. But when we do, it's because they finally had enough of their tyrannical rulers and they're ready to rise up and overthrow them. Iran is one example of a place where we regularly hear from the people, and we've been hearing from them for much of the past generation as they, on a regular basis, take to the streets to protest against the Ayatollah regime. But even after many years of such protest, the regime continues to cling to power with an iron grip, doing as they please in Iran and supporting terrorist groups all over the Middle East and beyond. This week, the Reuters news agency published an extensive investigation into the aid provided by Iran to the Houthi rebels. The report includes details about the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps officials and specialists from the Lebanese Hezbollah organization who are supervising, which means fighting with, the Houthi attacks against ships in the Red Sea and helping to direct them. The report also includes testimony by former member of Yemen's regular military, which the Houthis battled for years before gaining control over most of the country. The former officer said that these IRGC and Hezbollah personnel supervise not only the training of the Houthi forces and the operation they conduct, but also the reassembly of missiles smuggled into Yemen in parts. Since the events of October 7th, Iran has refrained from directly responding to Israeli attacks on its affiliates in the Middle East. But this week, there was a slight change to that strategy, as IRGC forces launched missile and drone attacks from Iranian territory on positions held by some of their regional antagonists, but in the territory of neighboring countries. One of those attacks was directed at the city of Irbil, in the semi-autonomous Kurdish region of northern Iraq. The IRGC claimed, without providing any evidence to support their claim, that they've targeted a Mossad regional headquarters in this strike, However, this claim was contemptuously rejected by the Iraqi foreign minister, who said that the Iranians were lying about hitting a Mossad base in northern Iraq to cover up for the fact that they were unable and unwilling to strike Israel itself. He also said that Iraq's government has plans to take up the matter with the UN Security Council. The IRGC also fired missiles at a small village in western Pakistan last week, claiming to be striking a Jaish el-Adil, Army of Justice, an organization that strives to achieve independence for the Baluchi minority in Iran, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. This group has claimed responsibility for numerous attacks against the IRGC, Iranian border police, and army positions on the Iranian side of the border. Ironically enough, this Iranian claim of striking at a terrorist group that had killed its soldiers might have been true, but the Pakistani government nonetheless took great offense at Iran's breach of its sovereignty and responded by launching airstrikes on what it claimed were terrorist training camps in southeastern Iran. After some intense back-channel diplomacy by the major powers, none of whom would benefit from a war between Iran and Pakistan at this time, there appeared to be an agreement by both sides to not let things spiral out of control. But a major line has been crossed, and no one is likely to forget that anytime soon. Another target of Iran's missile strikes this past week was ISIS, which, in case you didn't know, is still very much alive and active, despite having suffered a major strategic defeat in the last decade. ISIS camps in Syria were hit by Iranian missiles last week, in what the IRGC said was a retaliation for a bombing attack in the Iranian city of Kerman on a memorial service to mark the 4th anniversary of the assassination of IRGC chief Qasem Soleimani. Those attacks were very embarrassing for the Iranian regime, and that seems to be precisely why ISIS carried them out. There's no doubt that the IRGC would have liked to actually hit a Mossad regional headquarters or any other Israeli target, as Israel has also been embarrassing them by methodically assassinating one high-level Iranian asset after another in Lebanon and Syria over the past several years. Another airstrike this week in Syria is believed to have eliminated 3 IRGC generals, including the commander of IRGC intelligence. This follows the assassination of IRGC General Ghaza Mousavi in Damascus on December 25th, which was a severe blow to Iranian operational capabilities and perhaps, more importantly, prestige. Iran has promised to strike back at Israel for this and many other blows it has inflicted on the Ayatollah regime's regional agenda over the years. But much time has passed, those threats have never been followed through on, and the Islamic Republic of Iran continues to absorb one blow after another from Israel. All of the regime's other enemies have no doubt seen this and been emboldened by it. With that in mind, these missile attacks on sites in Iraq, Syria, and Pakistan almost make sense. They were meant as a show of force by Iran to counter the perception that it is impotent and unable to respond to all the blows Israel keeps landing on it. But if that's what their intent was, they largely failed, as the Iraqi foreign minister publicly called them out on their deceit. ISIS is very unlikely to be deterred or even distracted by these strikes, and Pakistan responded in kind to their strikes. This incident with Pakistan is perhaps the most damaging to Iran, as it angered the great powers, even including its allies Russia and China, because it risked igniting a major regional conflict, making Iran appear more reckless than strong. Meanwhile, it is likely only a matter of time before we see the next report about a senior Iranian officer or an Iranian-sponsored terror operative or a Hezbollah field commander killed by a missile strike in Lebanon or Syria. Following standard procedure, Israel won't confirm or deny it's responsible for these events. But that's not the only thing that should worry us, because this week, the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi, warned against the accelerated progress of the Iranian nuclear program. In an interview with the Bloomberg website, the head of the Atomic Energy Agency said that the agency's inspectors estimate that Iran has now sufficient quantities of highly enriched uranium to build several nuclear warheads. Iran has enriched uranium to 84%, only 6% less than the level needed to develop a nuclear weapon. A nuclear bomb does indeed need additional components, and enriching uranium to a high level is an important but not exclusive component. But I must emphasize this with this report. Iran is no longer inching towards an atomic bomb. They're very close. The Iranian-sponsored Houthi attacks on shipping traffic through the Red Sea have had at least one unexpected result. Producers in China, India, and other Eastern Asian countries have begun unloading their cargoes in Dubai and Bahrain before loading them on trucks and moving them across Saudi Arabia to Jordan, which has opened up land routes for these trucks to then move to Israeli ports. They are then loaded onto other ships which transport them on to European markets. This land route is more expensive than the traditional sea route through the Red Sea. But since the Houthi attack have made that route so perilous, the land route through Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and onto Israel ports has become economically viable, in comparison to the much longer sea route around the Cape of Good Hope in South Africa. This creative bypass will be a boon to the economy of both Jordan and Israel, who will benefit from the transit fees and other taxes on the goods being moved by truck through their territory. It will also mean that goods will arrive in Israel before the upcoming Passover holiday, although some shipping companies have decided to stop sending cargo directly to Israel for fear of retaliation by the Houthis. In any event, this is a historic economic breakthrough that brings to light the economic and commercial cooperation between Arab countries that joined Israel to fight the axis of evil. The purpose of the line is not to replace the use of the Suez Canal, but to be a complementary express route, which will serve as a bypass route for the Houthi threat in the Red Sea in times of emergency. It will also shorten shipping times by 10 days in times of calm. As a footnote, Iran is also busy trying to move goods through Jordanian territory, but not with Jordan's consent. In fact, the Jordanian armed forces have carried out several attacks against attempts by Iran and groups it controls to move large quantities of narcotics from Lebanon and Syria through its territory to Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates in recent weeks. There is reason to believe that Israel has provided intelligence support and perhaps other assistance to the Jordanian anti-drug campaign. But once again, we should not expect Israel to confirm nor deny this. That's a look at what's going on in our Middle East neighborhood this week as the growing regional crisis threatens to turn into a global war. If you want to continue to be informed on what God is doing in the Middle East and help others to do the same, subscribe to this YouTube channel, follow us on social media, and share our content there. Please join us in praying about these matters and pray for the peace of Jerusalem.